All right, y'all. Welcome back to the channel of Socially Single. I'm V, and we're getting into part two of my thoughts and such biased opinions regarding the third episode of 90 Day Fiance called I Manifested You. And so this video, we are going to be talking about the two remaining couples I did not cover in part one, which is going to be Mallory and Ross, and then Debby and Mido. So I'm going to actually I talked about them before in my first couple because they both only had an episode so far. So now we're getting a continuation of their story. And like before, I'm going to actually start off with Debby and Mido. And then we'll hop over to Mallory and Ross, like I have more to say. So let's talk about Debby. Now, I said in the beginning that I like me some Debby. Remember I said that? I think Debbie's pretty. I like how Debby, in this episode had her little kitten heels and had her little walk. I like Debby with a Y. Because I keep thinking it's Debby with an I-E, like Little Debbie. But it's Debby with a Y. I'm like, I like Debby. Until this emotional stuff that Debby was going through over me, though. Debby, let me tell you something. Don't you ever, let me take my glasses off. Don't you ever let some exchange student have you that up in arms on whether he coming or not for a ticket that you pay for. Debby, you 54 years old, like Annabelle and Shay. You got the woman up. You got the woman up, and and Debby, you busty, okay? You busty. You got the boss up, because if Mido was that concerned about his family, his dad, and everything, ain't no way in hell. V, what the heck is you talking about? I'll rewind. So let's talk about how we ended at Debby when we introduced her in a previous episode, where there was an issue with Mido's father, who is the Egyptian from Egypt that she is bringing over to the States. And he wanted to stay longer and did not want to have to come to the States as soon as his ticket was bought for. So he was wanting additional days, and she's like, hey, I'll look into it, but it's expensive to change tickets, especially this close to the departure day. So kind of find out, we start this episode off with her finding out that the change of ticket is $4,000, which is absurd, but I have to say, but it is the cost of doing business when you're talking about international flights and the complexities. We don't know how many flights he had to venture through in different airports. And so who knows, right? But what we do know is that Debby didn't pay for it. Debby said, I ain't got the kind of money. That's $300. That's $4,000. Just so you can spend time with your daddy? Oh no, you're a famous actor. So if you got the money, you can do it. And that would have been what that is, but I'm not doing it. So the bulk of their scenes in this episode was really, is Mido going to show up to the airport or not? So she has her daughter pick her up. She's like, I don't know if he's going to on the plane. I texted him. And what's crazy is when she told him how much it was to change the flights, he was like, no comment. Dude, what do you mean no comment? What you want to do is $4,000. No. How do you respond? Because you initiated this request, but we're not doing that, right? So, of course, I'm going to skip past all this for you, because 98 wants to be thinking, does Mido come? Does he come? Oh my God, she's crying. She's got to cry. He doesn't show up. He showed up. Okay, here's the proof. He showed up. And before he did, I have a question though. Now, I have my fair share of animals, but I do have to ask, what is it with this whole carrying the dog everywhere? And I'm fine with the carrying the dog, but why does the dog have to be there at the airport waiting for your fiance who you don't think is going to even show up. That's the part that kind of confused me. Because I've been to New Orleans airport, Poe Dog, like he just down, like why couldn't he just stay in the Tesla with the daughter? Tesla's got a dog mode, a pet mode, could have hanged out in the back. She had her little 3. Like, why the dog gotta be there? So the dog was there. We see Debby run into the bathroom because she had to throw up. And I'm like, you better go ahead in your little heels and just, you're just tipping on. I was like, you better go in here, Debby. And eventually Mido, whatever his name is, he shows up. And so now I told y'all in the part 1, I love those, like I think 90 Day Fiance is made for the videos, those scenes of like them coming to the airport or the wedding. And this was lackluster. I don't like this guy, y'all. I'm gonna definitely put some pictures up of Mido. I don't like his cadence. I don't like how the vibe he's giving. He's giving me arrogant, young exchange student with a little bit of entitlement involved. And nowhere in him did I see him being some guy who was like in love with her. I think that he is happy to be in the States, but the first thing he said was he wanted to advance his career. He asked her, hey, did you call Will Smith and Tom Cruise when I was here? And I know that he's joking, but you know how some people talking, like they're joking, but their intent may be to talk in jest, but it had an air of truth behind it, and it did not feel funny in the moment. She wasn't in on the joke. Like, she kept saying, y'all, I did not know you got on the plane. And he's like, well, I wanted to surprise you. And that's when he responded to it when the production asked him. And when she asked him originally, right, at the airport, like, I wanted to surprise you. And she's like, it wasn't a good surprise. And I agree, because had it been me, I'm going to tell y'all right now, if I didn't know he was on the plane and she claims she could not get any information, she didn't know if he had checked in. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if I believe all that, because with all of the communication and technology that we have these days with tracking flights and people and all this other stuff, even, are not, I don't know why he would not keep her in a loop with things. But I just don't believe fully that she did not know if he got on a plane, which is a big part of their scene presence in this episode. And that's why I said, in the previous video, it felt like a filler to me. But let's just say that she did. Let's say she didn't know if he was going to show up. I would have stayed at home. He would have came down them steps. Where is she? Where is she? Or in my case, where's V? V, did you come to the airport? I would have texted back a screenshot of when I reached out to you and called you, and you ignored me. You did not tell me you was coming. And I was sitting here thinking about the money I wasted in funds, paying for a ticket that you didn't think was good enough to get on, to take advantage of. I'm good. I'll get you an Uber to the house. I'm so happy you're here. I ain't cooked nothing, but follow the signs for Uber. They'll tell you. I've been to New Orleans airport. It's a beautiful airport, by the way. But I would have been down there. Oh, you want to play jokes? Okay, I got a joke for you. And I'm gonna tell you right now, my jokes are hilarious. My jokes are hilarious because I'm going to be laughing like I can't even breathe. And so I thought, especially when we got the title that she was sitting there an hour and a half after he was there, which I get his international fight. I had already thought in watching this in real time of like, he probably got stuck at customs, and we don't know all about Mido, of course. Like we are just out meeting him and seeing how he acts in person. I did not get the impression that he is someone who is a very independent thinker or a critical thinker. So if something had gone down, I feel like he would have reached out to her to complain about something. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of whining from him. So, and listen, I'm always open to be wrong. Like, I am no fortune teller. I am not the reincarnation of Miss Cleo. However, he doesn't give me like alpha vibes. I'm sorry. So we met him. He was like, hey, and like, he has a very awkward smile. And he's not an ugly guy. He does not give me 41-year-old virgin. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Now he may be a 41-year-old virgin when it comes to women. That may be possible, but you know what? I ain't trying to be nobody mad out here. I am not feeling anything genuine or authentic from Mido. That is my sum up of Mido so far. If you feel differently, I really want to know. Tell me your thoughts on Mido. I think this situation between Debby and him is not going to work out. Debby is high level enough to, I think at this point, understand if she's been singing for 20 years, which means in New Orleans, if that is true, she definitely has some standards about herself that she probably won't be willing to lower any further if she's already done so. So if Mido isn't going to be showing her the sort of affection and love that she needs, I'm not getting that Debby is signing up for a complete sugar mama situation. And that is what it's feeling like right now. And she is not really fully aware. The way he came off was somebody who met an older woman, and he's, and I hate to say it, but some of these guys, these younger guys, when they meet the older woman in person, and let's be clear, they have already met. They have already hung out, right? Like this is not their first time meeting. This is his first time meeting her at the airport in the United States. But his attitude was like, oh, okay, I have to really get into this older woman. And he's 41. He's no spring chicken himself. Okay, let's be clear. Like, she didn't get her a 21-year-old or a 31-year-old. He's 41. Okay? But I do think that the aloofness that he wanted to try to give off and his poor acting skills. So I'm just not getting anything real from this guy. Unfortunately. I feel like that Mido is trying to get to be a part of the franchise, to go through the motions with Debby, to gain notoriety through 90 Day with other spinoffs, like we have seen time and time again with those that are not with their person moving forward. He had nothing to say about Debby, his life here with her, what he's looking forward to with her, what he's missed about her specifically. Not just, I wanted to surprise her because she hasn't seen me in so long. It was extremely lackluster. There wasn't even witty enough to be a good thought off the top of his head. I'm not feeling dude. I'm not feeling him. But we're going to see what it's going to be. But I think we already know how this is going to end in New Orleans. All right. Now, let's talk about Mallory and Ross. So, don't remember, Mallory went over to Turkey. And if you see me doing weird functions, my arm is killing me. So, we won't be out here much longer. We see her go to Turkey in order to pick up her dude, so that way he doesn't have any problems getting into the States with customs coming from Turkey. So I mentioned in my first video about Mallory that she is what she described herself as a basic bitch, basic redneck white bitch. from Alabama, Athens, Alabama. And I think that I saw more of what she described herself as in this episode than previously. Let's go in, what do you mean? Let's go into it. So this episode was about, we get to meet all of Ross's family. And I do enjoy these moments of like getting to see them meet the families and all that. We don't always get this. A lot of times they make it seem as if these people are not even coming from no family. And I know that it could be a part of the fact of like, hey, maybe they don't want to be in the show. They didn't sign a contract. That's definitely possible. But I'm really happy that we get to meet like he has all the brothers, like within at least 3 or 4 brothers. He may have had some sisters, or it was at least their wives were there. We meet his mom, who just looks, she was crying so much, y'all. And I was tearing up with her. There's just, that woman can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. And I know that's so horrible. That woman don't even know me from a can of paint, but she just like, she was going to really miss her son. And it reminded me when I had to leave my mom and travel away, especially in my earlier years. And so I was just like, this is just all too cute. And he was crying. It was a whole thing, y'all. I'm going to put pictures up. So y'all can see the love in the family. So they go over to his family because the family say, well, hey, we won't see you get married in the States. So we want to do some of the little traditions here as a family together while you're here with her. And I thought that was a really, really good idea for them to do that. This hat is not staying on my head. And y'all know why I'm wearing it, because my hair is even more of a mess than it was last week. So I'm trying to just be a little bit neutral, but whatever. So, and one of the traditions was he has to drink salted coffee, that Mallory had to put the salt into his coffee and make him drink as a symbolism of that life together won't always be sweet. There will be sour moments in it as well, but you'll get over it. I thought it was a really, really cute thing. We also got to meet his friends as well, which I thought was, listen, I like meeting people from these people's lives, because it just, I keep saying this, it gives a little bit more of an authentic, genuine storyline compared to more fabricated ones, right? That we know that Fiance does sometimes. So his fam, she's met the family before. I don't know if she had met the friends before, but she's met the mom before. And it's, Rosh has very broken English. So he was like, my mom said, if I make you sad, she won't give me the milk. What? Sir, sir, something tells me Mama ain't got much milk to give to nobody, because as old as your brother is, and you're only 29 yourself, looking 35. Something tell you, mom been done with milk from her breast for a long time, but we get it. If you make her sad and don't do right by Mallory, Mama's gonna have a problem with it. And that's what was intended to me. I was like, this is so cute. And so, before we get into the serious conversations that the brothers had with Rash, we meet the friends, and they're having some drinks. They had this traditional drink called Rocky, and needless to say, Mallory was not a fan of it at all. But you know how she said, I didn't want to offend the culture. Mallory, you offended the culture. It's one thing to be like, oh, I don't like this. This was nasty. It's not just. She went like, this was yuck. It was yuck. Yeah. I don't know how you drink. I'm like, at some point, especially when you in these people's country, because again, you out here screwing a Turkish man. It like the Turkish man came over here to the States and forced his stuff on you at this point. So just say the drink wasn't for you. It was like a milk vinegar. I love vinegar, but I don't want it with my milk. So I'm with you. But we don't know the significance of some of these things with other cultures. And Mallory's story within this episode, I think, is a very strong lesson to a lot of us. Before you go bringing these people over here to the States or wanting to date someone from a different culture in general, particularly who lives in a different country, do your research and be prepared to be cognizant of what you say and the words, because there are things that we take offense to when it comes to our culture, right? Here in the States, Mallory needs to understand that with something that she was just saying. So we get into where the friends are like, are actually helping translate a little bit better for Rosh to Mallory, because Rosh has an issue with the fact of, like we've heard before, he's not accustomed to women staying friends with their ex. We just went through this with Laura and Bimbo, Beer Can, a moment ago, where we're trying to make this another storyline, right? Or like, oh my God, and kind of find out this guy's name with her ex is a guy named Brandon who lives in Alabama. They're really good friends. They did have a friends with benefits situation, so they were intimate with each other at some point. But it wasn't a relationship, according to Mallory. And so Mallory is like, hey, he is no threat to our relationship. He's going to be around a whole lot. And his thing is, I'm not accustomed to this, because when you're with your ex, you're thinking about the past memories and you're thinking about certain things. And if we're being honest, we're hearing things from Rash that he needs to be reminding Josh of with Katie and her harlot behavior. So she is like downplaying him. And we find out that she suffered a really bad accident with her friend's mom, a little time ago. And what's significant about her recovery is that Brandon, her best friend, took the initiative to help her recover and to get to a better place. And not only, of course, he wasn't a doctor, y'all, but he went to her house. He took care of the dogs. He just, he helped do things that seemed like that she had no access to do while she's recovering in the hospital. And so for that, in her mind, he'll always be around because he was there for me. I really want to know from y'all in the comment section, what do y'all think? Like, first off, I'm less interested in the conversation of should exes be friends or not. I know that there's a strong divide there. In my opinion, it just depends on the individuals and the situation. Some people can be friends with their exes and everyone can get along just fine. Other people are like, once we're done, we're done. My ex is no longer with us. So I don't necessarily have that issue to worry about. And so I don't have an opinion about this one way or the other. What I think the interesting question that I'm interested in that I want to hear from you all is, at what point do you make a change in your friendship solely for the purpose of accommodating your partner and the relationship you're in with your partner? Right now, we don't have enough information regarding Brandon, except for the fact of probably Mallory has not established boundaries with her friendships and her lifestyle. So if you're single and you're used to your friends coming, going as they please, and you're having your partner move in, maybe your girlfriend or your best friend just can't pop up to the house anytime that they want to with no respect to your partner, right? Because I do believe that when you get into a relationship, first off, you should not necessarily change who you are as a person just because you have a partner. I don't believe in that. What I do think is that the situation itself has to adapt, right? Not just for the new person coming into your life, but you're adapting to the relationship. So if you are going out with your friends and you're 5 nights a week, or you're on the phone till 4 a.m, maybe things would just teeter down a bit because you're going to have to make space for the new person in your life. Just like in my opinion, when you have kids, like it or not, there's just adjustment to having kids and there's lifestyle changes. So when she was talking about how Brandon's going to be around and he's not going anywhere, I'm like, I can see where Raj has a little bit of a problem on that. Now, we get into this familiar crap that we've heard time and time again. Another Turkish man who was like, well, I'm the man of my household, and you have to do as I say. And if I don't like it, it needs to be changed. You know what? We know this, right? We know this. We know that a lot of these men from Tunisia, Turkey, Iran, or whatever, a lot of these guys from different countries they come from a very patriarchal society. And it's in some cases, can be very misogynistic, at least to the average American mindset. And are we surprised? I didn't get that vibe from him that he was this person, but, I'm always interested to understand when I hear her, she's like, well, at this point in my life, I'm not interested in having a man tell me what to do. Why are you with someone who comes from a culture where inherently the women might be subdued and submissive, even, at least superficially, to their man? And we hear Mallory be like, well, you can get control of me. You're coming to the U.S. This is your culture, but this is my culture. That's not how that works, y'all. The way it was being presented was like, oh, so he's coming to the U.S., so he's just going to forego everything Turkish for the U.S. Just like if it was the opposite, if she was going to Turkey, are we supposed to believe that she's going to forego everything Southern U.S., everything about the South, to be in Turkey? No. It's part of who you are as a person. And it's clear that these two must not have had enough conversations because we find out two different things. Number one, he's thinking he's going to have a certain level of control and an ownership of things and in her life and amongst her possessions. And it doesn't seem like she's on the same page with that. So I'm not sure where they've missed each other with those things, but they did. Then we find out his brothers had to sit him down and be like, hey, we have fun seeing you. Love that you're here. But you gonna still have your money? You gonna still have your part for mama's house? Because we find out that Rash's parents unfortunately lost their house during an earthquake. Probably in 2024, I believe it was, he mentioned. I'm sorry, it was February 2023. His family lost their house from a really bad earthquake, and they have been living out of a tent outside their house, their crumble house. The house even fell down on his father. I don't believe we necessarily meet the father in this episode, but presumably the father survived. Of course, we met the mom, the sweet mother. And so they are choosing as siblings to say, hey, we're going to rebuild this house, which is, I'm sure, is a family house. And of course, they're going to support their parents. And they're all having to chip in to do their part. Now, this kind of made me realize something, that in these cultures, unlike here in the States, these are very labor-driven societies. And a lot of the times, while there is a certain level of first world privilege and luxuries that may exist in certain towns or very big cities of these places, I would imagine that when we're talking about like pensions, social security disability checks for the elderly, or retirement checks, And more than likely in these cultures, they don't have that as an option. So when they get older and they can't work, we've heard time and time again that it's the responsibility as a culture that your kids will take care of you. And of course, if you're older and you don't have kids, the hope is maybe that you do have family who are going to take on that care and not hopefully consider it to be a burden to make sure that they're there for you, right? And so it's interesting that, to me, while this is the same old story that we always hear a lot of the times in almost every 90 Day Fiance season, of course, it hit me like, at what point are we going to stop being surprised, like Mallory was, about like, what do you mean you don't have to send your family money? That's why he's working where he's at. Like, this idea that a lot of people are working solely just to take care of themselves and be independent and not care about anyone else is not always the case. They usually sometimes can even get stuck in a certain trade because they're very committed to providing for their families. Because at the end of the day, they may not, I have the luxury of benefits. Right. And yes, I am married. And so I am a dual income household. So there's just certain privileges and things that I can pull upon that doesn't require me going to my family. But this is a different culture. So why she did not understand this or know this earlier on, I don't know. And it's interesting that when he brings this up to her, because he's not going to back down from this. It is ingrained in his culture that he has to support his family. And he says that he was one of the, that's what he was working for when he was in Turkey. And so he's not interested in letting his brothers down, right? Especially in this very patriarchal culture where a man, if they're supposed to be the head of the household, also should be bringing home the bread, right? So when she goes into how she lives paycheck to paycheck and how she doesn't get that much money, and Americans, they just see Americans as this. Oh, okay, so now we're getting into that rhetoric of what you're surrounded by in Alabama. Because before, somehow you had enough money to travel. Somehow you had enough money just to go to Turkey just to make sure he get in safely. And I'm not saying Mallory is like, rich or anything or hiding money. It's just that y'all did a K1 where you knew he would not be able to work for an extended period of time, legally speaking. And on top of that, was the most interesting that I've been beating around the bush on is we're not going to pretend like as much code as Mallory has been trying to speak in and production trying to do it, she lives in that kind of place in Alabama. Now, Rosh is not, while he might be Turkish, he's not dark skinned. He is a European white looking man. I think in some ways he would be passable than me showing up at Athens, Alabama, probably after 7 p.m., right? So I think that we're going to get a lot of this U.S. bit from them to try to overshadow that. But she's already told us that her friends are deportation friendly. We can read in between the code. In my mind, I'm already seeing probably previous Confederate flags. I'm already seeing that, hey, some of them probably, not her friends, but there are probably some ancestors who weren't very friendly to my ancestors, if you catch my drift. They're probably voting for the wrong people. And this wasn't filmed at a time to where they would have understood that there's probably some regret happening in those camps at this point in the game in 2026. So, that's what makes their story interesting to me, because I really want to see how is this Turkish guy going to do in Athens, Alabama. And when he does get his green card, assuming that he does get it and is approved for it, what does that look like for him? Because in my mind, if Mallory at some point did not think that it would behoove her to at least move to Montgomery or to at least move to, I don't know, Conyers, Georgia, somewhere else where there's a bit more diversity involved and probably opportunities. And if she's living paycheck to paycheck, something telling her she can find a job, her job, in many different places. So this language of hers about having him conform to the South is going to definitely be conflicting. I think he's going to try. I think that he's going to do the superficial things, but it'll be really interesting to see how her surrounding people make him feel. And this is all her fault because there's clearly not enough discussion that was happening between these two. There just wasn't. And I think that this is one of those situations where they should have probably have gone for the spousal visa where she got married in Turkey and given his family the full experience. And then when he came over here, he would have already at least been in a position to have his green card to work normally, or at least have a shorter time frame to wait for that. Because if he's supposed to be contributing to his family, and it's a sad story. We can argue and say, oh, it's not his responsibility, not in America, but no, that is his responsibility. He owes that to his parents and his culture. He's already made commitments to his siblings. So it is what it is. It's not going away. And like he said, well, hey, are you going to work an extra day just for my family? And she said, no, I can't do that. Well, it's going to be the age-old question that I think that we've seen time and time again from previous couples in similar situations, and why she did not automatically understand that. I'm not sure why either. They're both 29 years old. You know, I'm sure there was a certain lack of critical thinking that did not happen, of course, in really breaking down what the future could look like. But we're going to see, y'all. We are definitely going to see. I know I wanted to go into a little bit more with the Mallory and Ross team because we got to be honest, at this point in the game, it should be expected, y'all. Come on. Like, we know what kind of places we know enough about where these people live. And if they're coming to the U.S., it has to make financial sense. It just has to. Whether it's true or not, Americans are not rich. They're not. But when you go out there, if we're going out to their country flaunting about how much we can do in their country with significantly less funds than what it is in the States, then of course to us the dollar is going to look like the almighty thing. I don't know if it's the same thing because of Trump and the foolish thing he did, but that's not what this video is about. I'm going to move on from that. However, I think I'm going to start talking and going to a tangent to a whole different topic that I don't want to go into. So I'm going to leave it here. I want to know your thoughts and comments so I can read them below. And I would love to be pressing some heart buttons. Please, please, please press that like button, which is, again, the thumbs up, not the thumbs down. And I hope that you subscribe. And I appreciate you all listening to my thoughts and biased opinions because, you know, I ain't got nobody else to talk to about this. And so I decided to tell y'all, all right, I'm going to catch y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching So She's Single. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.